Welcome to the HVAC Jerks with your hosts, Rich, Kevin, and Joe. You can email these guys at theboys@thehvacjerks.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the HVAC Jerks. My name is Rich. I'm here with Kevin and Joe, and we're your hosts, or jerks, or whatever you want to call us. We're going to start the show off, this first show, by telling you a little bit about ourselves and our experiences so that you can get an idea of who we are and why we're here. And by the way, this is the first time any of us are doing anything like this, so feel free to laugh at us or as we stumble through it and try to figure things out. So, Kevin, why don't you get the ball rolling and tell us all about your background and where you see this mess going?
I was hoping it was going to be last, but
No, you're first.
I'm going first.
No?
So I'm self-employed now, currently, for about 14 years. Learned the trade through my father, which has about 30 years experience, heating, plumbing, mainly. For myself, I got into the HVAC side of it. I see Joe's writing things on his notepad, right? So
Yeah, he's tearing you up already.
So graduated high school, went to college for criminal justice. That didn't turn out so well. Learned to frame houses, put in windows, hang siding, do roofing, shot some pool, made some money gambling.
So you chose the criminal life, basically. Criminal justice.
Yeah. So the criminal justice side, 180 is what I learned. Basically hard work, a lot of trades, electrical, things like that. Worked in a small motor generator background for some years, dealing with electronics and inverters.
Yeah, you got a really strong electrical background. You amaze me every time we talk about something.
Yeah. In it, yes, but college-wise, no. I don't have a lot of college.
Can you read?
I can read.
Okay.
Dr. Seuss.
Good.
One of my favorite.
Yep.
Marvin K. Mooney, Where Are You Now?
Yep.
So, so as far as college goes, limited. But trades, hands-on, many years of hands-on. So I've applied my common sense and my abilities to running and operating a business, which I gambled heavily on, and so far have been pretty successful with. So
How long have you had that business now?
about almost 14 years.
Yeah.
On my own, I have 5 employees now, multiple trucks on the road, and well over 1,500 employees or customers.
1,500?
Not employees. I wish I had 1,500. We wouldn't be
That's
sitting
big
here
fat
right
payroll, yeah.
now. We'd be a whole different podcast. So 1,500 customers. We're a small outfit. We're based out of the Northeast, and
Isn't it safe to say that some of your employees actually testify that every time they mention a specific industry, you've actually done something in that field?
I think I've worked in just about every industry out there. So if you need a large pizza with extra
Kevin's
pepperoni,
delivered
I can, for an Irish guy, I can make a mean pizza.
I was just going to jump in and say, Joe, are you allowed to use the word testify? Is that
Yes,
you're
yes.
trying to keep that out of this program?
We're not saying our last names, right?
Mafiosa.
So, all right.
So I'm going to pass the baton over to Joey Jibb here, and let's see what he has to say about himself.
Well, I have not nearly the experience you have. You've been in every industry known to mankind and mastered most of them.
47 jobs to date.
I'm the oldest one in the group, I believe, and Rich is showing his true colors this afternoon. So basically, I started my career right after high school, went into the service.
What's that, Kev?
This doesn't throw me. The title is just being shown. Unfortunately, you guys can't see it here.
Yeah.
But service, gas stations, own HVAC companies.
All right, you got to let them in on the joke here.
The joke is that both of these guys are wearing glasses with a big nose and mustache. I guess they try to infer that I have the big nose and actually wearing glasses and a mustache. So, but I make it work. You guys just look stupid.
Just letting our producer know what's going on here.
But essentially, I bring a little different qualification to this job because I've been on all 3 sides. I've been my own business. I've worked for, well, actually 4. I've been an employee. I've owned my own heating and air conditioning company. I've worked for a major wholesaler in the HVAC business, and now I represent a manufacturing firm. So I have all aspects of this industry covered as far as these other guys go.
It'd be safe to say that you have a lot of experience in sales.
And in sales, well, that's what I'm generally, that's what I do now. and for the last 10 years. But always been a salesman, no matter what business I've been in, because I believe that's the foundation for any good business. Without sales, you can't do anything.
That's the truth. It all starts with a sale.
Is that a pickle hat?
It is a pickle
You're wearing
hat.
a hat
Yeah.
with pickle.
My daughter went to some pickle farm or something, and she got me this pickle hat, and I thought it would make
how'd you get that
fit
thing?
right in here.
Can you get me one?
Well, it's better than what he said. He said he was going to come with no pants on and a chicken. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
it was sweet.
At least
I was thinking about not wearing any pants, but I didn't want to distract you too much.
So basically, that's the gist of my career. I'm in my, I don't want to say a winter season of my career. I still got a lot to contribute and a large sum of money to pay for kids and colleges and
there's no quit. There's no quit. You got a lot to go.
so I'm in it for the long haul.
You're on
and,
turn one.
and this is basically, this podcast was introduced to me as an idea and could be successful. I'm strictly in it for the money.
Yeah.
Let's not have any illusions about this.
Sell.
And the only reason I'm here is because I couldn't have a conscience that these two guys would actually be successful, and I was left holding the bag. So that's really why I'm here.
All right,
There
good.
you are.
And he can't play drums, so we
Right,
need to
right.
find a drummer. We're sitting next to this beautiful drum
So
set.
you
We
can
have
cook a
nobody
little
to
bit,
play
though. Every
drums.
time, yeah, you can cook.
Oh, yeah.
Hobbies is the next episode. We'll
Yeah.
talk about what we
Yeah.
do personally to relate to the people out there.
All right, so
Well, eating food's my hobby. I can vouch for that.
Again, I want to testify. You're very good at that too.
Stop using testify. You're making us nervous.
Yes, Lord, testify.
all right, so,
So,
back
Rich,
to me, I guess.
what the hell you know, Rich? Tell us.
I don't, every day I realize how much I don't know in this industry, but I've been doing this for, 25 or 30 years or something. I started out as a plumber's helper in Manhattan, working on a sewer crew, actually, and I learned a lot about steam there. Working in Manhattan is really interesting with anything you do, but
You got two spectrums of the world right
Yeah,
there.
it's
Manhattan
crazy.
And steam. So
yeah, we worked on high
Completely
pressure
different
steam,
animals.
and that really gave me an introduction to that whole world. So from there, I went to did some stuff on my own. I worked for a company, good sized company, had about 50 employees. I was their first salesman. Did that for a little while. Then I was installation manager for about 8 or 10 years. I managed as many as 12 crews at a time. It was probably 80% residential, 20% light commercial, and really got a good view of the world that way. And that's when I also realized that most of the guys that come into this industry have no formal training or education at all, and they don't have any idea what they're doing. And that led me on to another career path. But before
That's why you're the big pickle.
yeah, I'm the big
Showing
pickle in
why.
that, right? Anyway, so yeah, I did wrote a couple of books along the way. I'm sure we'll get that in here somewhere, and doing some other training now.
You wrote any books, Joe?
Not any you can publish.
I read a book.
And
Just one.
Right, yeah.
Just one. I think,
Yeah,
I
just-
have one down.
I think
the author's name is Rich Schuster.
yeah, I wrote more than I read. But and then what else? I worked for Supply House for a while. Did that for 10 years. I was salesman there and store manager and regional manager. Did all that kind of stuff. So between the three of us, I think we've got an amazing view of every aspect and angle of this industry. So
Well, it really helps us, I think, and not just our day in and day out experiences over the last 25, 30 years. Combined, we have an enormous amount of experience on multiple angles for this business. But what I think is a big plus for us that people in different parts of the country or even the world that might be listening to what we're talking about here today is in the Northeast, we are subject to such extremes. And not just where we are, we're centrally located in the state of New York. So we have extreme swings. This past winter alone, we were
temperature swings you're talking about.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, weather,
so
yeah.
our climate is just completely
Yeah.
unstable.
Yeah.
In essence, we really don't know what we're going to get. Forget global warming. We're not going to get on that topic.
Yeah.
But just in the natural everyday ins and outs of this area for us. This past winter, we were subject to below zero temperatures for almost 3 weeks straight.
Yeah.
And that's not really normal for us, but we always have to prepare for that exact situation. So our design temps are for zero, maybe even lower now. Being that the world
Yeah.
is warming up,
Yeah.
we have
Yeah,
to
right.
design lower. But and then in the summer times we're 90, 95 plus with extreme humidity, and
Yeah.
climate control for us is an enormous factor here in the Northeast. I'm sure maybe in the upper Midwest and the West Coast uppers, but when you start getting south, there's a big portion of this country that doesn't see it. So there might be people in Florida that listen to us and say, gee,
Yeah.
like they deal with heat pumps and electric strip and,
Yeah.
and things like that. And we have some of that here too, not on the level they do, but we have every element here. And Joe can contest to that because he's representing an outfit that
Yeah.
does just that, and
Yeah.
he deals with all entities, all levels. So.
I wanted to say that that whole thing is a really good point, because I met with a guy who was a consolidator he worked for a company that goes around buying small contractors and kind of lumps them into one, and see a lot of that going on in the industry these days. But he's from Atlanta, and when I met with the guy, he said, this is really much harder up here than I'm used to, because he did this in the South a lot, and they would buy up all these little companies, and they're all HVAC companies that sell
and dry,
furnaces and
cookie
coils
cutters.
and condensers, and that's all they do. But they come up here, and he said, not only do you have to know,
Plumbing,
typical,
electrical,
you got to know boilers, and then it means you have to know plumbing, and then you have to know water softeners if you're doing anything with water, and then the whole HVAC world gets transitioned into plumbing, and they don't see that anywhere else in the country besides here. So we
we're
really
unique.
have a different view of all this.
Yeah, but the one mitigating factor that brings us all together, furnace, climate, and everything else,
Is the pickle hat?
is what does not happen in our field, and that's actual load calculations. The number one biggest factor in when you're sizing or doing a home or just buying equipment, the rule of thumb is just put in what was in there. And it's typically the wrong unit to begin with, so you're doubling down on what you found. So that can happen whether you're in the Northeast, the South, or anywhere else. People are just not doing the right jobs, and generally the equipment is to blame for it when it doesn't work.
I don't know how it works down south. I don't have an experience in Florida or the Carolinas or Georgia. I don't know how down there, if you size a 2.5 ton, it's probably a 2.5 ton. Here we have boiler systems in the Northeast that are sized 200,000 BTUs for a small cape.
Yeah, which is nuts.
That probably doesn't need more than 75,000 BTUs. And you might have to oversize the boiler to accommodate the 80-gallon hot water heater so
Right.
the wife can have a jacuzzi.
Right.
So in most cases, that's what we find when you actually do a load calc. So you take these European boilers, wall hung, 3-pass, condensing. You start implementing these boilers into those applications, and it works fantastic. Long pump runs, lower temps, constant heat admittance.
Well, you're talking about theory. You're talking about actual reality. What I'm talking about is what we find in the industry on a day-to-day basis, the lack thereof of
Oh, I agree.
what most contractors don't do or fail to teach their employees to do. I'm specifically not talking about yours, because you're one of the few that actually goes through the right way to do things. It's being in the unique position that I've been in with working at supply houses, and in my career now as a manufacturer's representative, where I see day-to-day problems circling constantly, and it's specifically the same instance everywhere you go. Nobody's taking the time to do the job right. They're all in it for the money. They're trying to make as much as they can, get in and out, whether they're selling a high-efficiency unit or not. They're not plumbing it in as to be a high-efficiency unit.
That brings us to another subject, though. I think a lot
I
of that.
like this subject.
Say that again.
I like this subject.
Well, we can go either way. We can
Yeah.
stay here or go there.
Well, Joe,
I got something
go
to
ahead.
say.
You can
Go
go
ahead.
No, I was just going to say that a lot of that's starting to change now, because 10 years ago, nobody was doing a load calculation here, but now some of the municipalities are starting to require it to get a permit.
Well, New York
So
State
you
alone
start-
has changed
Well,
the law.
where Kevin and I had talked about this, and almost to the point of exhaustion, is that him and I differ on the small companies are being weeded out because of these subtle changes, and all the bigger companies are buying smaller companies, and the smaller companies who don't adapt to the regulations and the new codes are the ones that are going to be weeded out. And the bigger companies have to enforce the codes in their own facilities, because then they won't get any jobs passed.
I think this is so determined by the state you live in. you go to Connecticut and you can't do anything without a permit or a license. Every helper, anybody's got a license over there. Here, it goes by the
it's
town.
good and bad
County.
for the industry.
Yeah, county.
It's good and bad for the industry. It's the best protection for the homeowner because at the end of the day, they're the one left holding the bag. Whether it's a great contractor or a mom and pop store, they're all going to be held to a similar standard. And I think at the end of the day, if you're going to be charging somebody an exuberant amount of money to do an installation, God bless capitalism. I'm all for earning as much as possible, but do the right job.
Those people are they're going to weed themselves out, and that's the beauty of capitalism. If you're not going to do the job right, you're ultimately not going to do the job. Ever.
And you shouldn't.
You shouldn't. Your reputation will follow you, and you will. Joe, you are fantastic. Just like
But there was a guy locally here I knew from the supply house when I was working there who was a contractor in this area for, 15, 20 years, whatever. He'd been here forever. And then he moved down to Florida. And he was trying to start a business there, but they wouldn't give him a license because he couldn't prove that he worked down there for X amount of time, whatever the requirement is. So he ended up coming back here. So, I mean, it really varies by where you live.
There's a lot of different state by state, and each state, either it's a state license or it's a county license or a town license. Where we work here, just in the Hudson Valley area that we work in, it literally goes town to town.
Well,
one town is extreme, one town is
because
nothing.
my company is located in New England. Some of those states are extremely energy efficient. And they are very, very strict on policy and lowering the size of your carbon footprint, and very progressive liberal agendas that are up there are turning the industry upside down, which makes people have to change and look at different ways of doing the same job. It's no longer just slap something in and move on to the next house. It's become a completely different animal altogether, which sometimes. In fact, and usually the most case now with all these newer regulations, it just brings the cost of the job up. So everybody has to be a lot more concerned about sharpening their pencils because everyone's bidding on the same job, and hopefully everybody's doing the same job. And so the competition is a big thing.
You have a lot of companies, like you said. There's people out there that are just about the money and making the money. So, they're seeing this as an opportunity to sell you a wall-hung boiler and can give two craps about, what it's actually heating and how it's heating it. And hey, you got a wall-hung boiler,
and whether
it's
or not
$15,000.
It's efficient.
They don't care. That they're just there to put something on the wall that you just go, I saw it on a website and I saw this beautiful picture.
Right.
And is that what I'm going to get? And you go, yeah, something like that. And
Exactly.
Look, a wall-hung boiler is only as good as it's designed. So, if you have it on the wrong equipment or the wrong, heaters, pumps,
wrong radiation,
all the details. But again, you're charging top dollar. If I sold you a Mercedes, you expect to get Mercedes through and through, right? So, but if I sold you a Mercedes with a Ford motor in it, you're not going to be so happy. Or if it had a Mazda engine or a transmission, you're not going to be so happy.
Well, it's a matter of taking pride, and I do a lot of seminars.
Well, that's what we're lacking a lot of.
Yeah, I do a lot of seminars, and I actually started interjecting that the folks that I'm talking to are supposed to be technicians and really should be proud of what they do every day and not have to rely on tech support to fix a problem. They should be taking the time.
What's a meter?
Right, taking the time to read the book that usually is used as an e-pad.
This all comes back to training, though. I mean, this is the most extreme subject we've got in this.
Well,
topic,
that's the future. The future is training and emphasizing on training. But unfortunately, right now we're in that transitional stage. And again, we've talked about this. We beat this like a dead horse. Our industry is a bunch of old timers still, right? The
Hey,
people
I resemble that remark.
Yeah, well, you're an old timer. So, but you guys that are in your age bracket, you guys are a little bit older than me. And I myself was even taught by people that were from that generation or taught by the generation before, where if it's not a Beckett burner,
right.
Throw it in the garbage. If it's not a Will McLean 3-section blue with a coil, get it out of here.
How many times have you been to a house that's got a 16 or an 18 SEER condenser and they didn't even hook up the second stage of cooling?
Yeah, they
don't even know how to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I can point directly to a product because, like you're saying, the older folks believe a certain way. You can't change anything because, oh, no, this is how it's always been done. When Rich and I used to work for the same wholesaler, I remember when press fittings came out, and I'm like, this is the thing. This is going to be the thing that changes the industry. And we looked at each other. I'm like, Rich had the power to bring in the material, and I was the sales for that person. And it was a tough sell at first because it was really in its infancy. And it was
expensive to get into, yeah.
Right. But we had it dead to nuts that that was going to be the next thing, and it ended up becoming the next thing. And actually, I sold you on it back then, and where you were a little reluctant.
I was reluctant because I had a hard time justifying the move because I was a smaller outfit.
Right.
At the
but
time.
that didn't take long for you to be sold on that.
Once we incorporated it and became comfortable with it,
and I
it
remember,
took over for us. So.
Yeah, I remember we ended up becoming the largest in our company, the largest seller of the product for that manufacturer in the entire United States, just out of our store.
Sure. Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah. Oh, you're welcome. Now your guys aren't spending $70 worth of solder on top of a boiler.
So the other problem that I find, and the other angle to what you're saying, is people not doing the right job and people not following through. And we're coming from a history of, if it's not a Beckett, get rid of it. If it's not, something you can just set up by eye, who needs a back rack kit? I'm not sitting there pumping that thing 11 times and pulling 11 smoke pulls. Screw that shit.
By the way, a lot of people don't even know what you're talking about because, we're oil up here too on top of everything else.
Yes, that's true. So your electric testers, we used to do by a little chemical science kit that we used to carry around, or at least I did. My father used to laugh at me every time, but I would make sure I put 10 minutes on my service to make sure that I tested for all these things. Make sure we had the right O2 levels.
You worked for an oil company.
For an oil company that didn't give me the time to do that task because they could care less. I was told specifically by this major oil company, by the owner, that they have insurance for a reason.
Yeah.
So don't waste your time with that stuff. Move on. So for them, it was all about production, just sheer numbers, not about quality or customer satisfaction. So
over the years, I've come to realize you have a problem with that.
I have a serious problem with not giving the customer what they're paying for. I don't like getting screwed over. If I'm getting an oil change, I want a goddamn oil change, and that includes the filter and whatever else that might need to be taken care of. I want to talk about it. So I'm not against the guy bringing me in a dirty air filter and saying, hey, let's talk about your dirty air filter.
Right.
At least
and
I
then you can make the choice. Then right.
I can make a choice, but I want an educated analysis of my situation. So I feel for me, people say good, better, best. I don't look at it as a sale. At the end of the day, I'm going to make the same amount of money if I do good, better, or best. So from my position, I'm content with any choice that you make as a homeowner.
Are we getting into the sales aspect now?
Because I wasn't going there, but
we've touched 50 subjects.
Yeah, we touched. So this is our first show, and just imagine what's coming your way. So these are how these shows are going to go. I think we're going to get so caught up in our own thought processes. So we're going to need some guidance from our listeners to keep us straight with some questions and answers. But what I was getting at was if people are not doing the right job and they're just in it for the money, and we're coming from a background where those people, right, that you're referring to, that are out there, those folks that are out there just doing the job for the money, and they don't care about the semantics about doing it right. They don't care about the ins and outs of it.
They care about the deposit.
They care about the deposit and the last check
and
clearing.
The last check before they finish the job.
Right. So, and if it's not a Beckett. Right, so they come from this background, and then you throw on our society, and we're gonna get into this.
That mindset's still very prevalent.
That mindset is enormous right now, and our society looks down on this industry already.
Yeah.
So you throw all that into the mix, and you have a bunch of guys that are out there like, well, everybody thinks we're a bunch of shitheads.
By the way, this isn't always a family-friendly show, so
right. So I might as well be a shithead, and I'm going to make my money while I can. So we have a lot of those guys out there, and unfortunate for us. HVAC, I consider it as a service, and I tell this to my guys all the time. We provide a service. We're there to inform our customers. We're there to enlighten them to what this is, explain what it is, educate our customer. I'm not there to upsell. I hate that terminology. I hate that line.
Let's say it what it is. You're the perceived expert that they're calling for help.
This is a whole culture issue, too.
But it's a culture issue because I'm fighting against companies that are in there just lowballing just to make the sale. They don't care if it's a 92 or a 95.
Where a customer education has to come in, where you, not only as the competing contractor, has to understand that most of these companies are in it, just like you're saying, for the fast buck, good, better, best. But nobody's going in there specifically to talk about what it really is. It's about them, and them.
Well, these are the problems we all run across
There's
every
no
day. I mean, it's
empathy.
technicians and
Right.
and salesmen and company owners, and it's having an uneducated customer is really an issue.
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time. It's a big issue because that can come back to you as a business. That can lead to negative reviews. It can lead to an unhappy customer.
Well, especially today, it's not like years ago. You do something bad, somebody gets on the internet.
They were dialing the phone.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
No more. Today, it's
when
instant.
when they actually
Instant,
dialed,
yeah.
and then it went to push
Yeah.
button, and then now
And
it's.
with the ratings today, those never go away. You get a bad review, it's there
You get a bad
forever.
review, it's hard to recover, and people take that stuff very seriously. It's very easy to do. It's out there. It's live. It's in your face. It's instant. So reputation takes years to build and takes minutes to destroy.
Well,
So,
actually, it is a benefit. I believe that
it can be.
No, I think that the people who do the right job aren't worried. Not to say that you're not going to run into that homeowner that is hell to deal with, regardless of how great your job
We
is.
all have
and,
them.
and it happens. But if you can leave that job knowing that you've done everything that you could possibly do to make that job right and the customer happy, there's no regrets. And it's easy to rebut when you do get a bad review. But I believe these reviews that everybody now has a website, every company has a website with reviews, and like us on Facebook and Twitter and so forth. I think it keeps everybody honest. I believe that game now has changed dramatically because years ago that wasn't a factor. A guy could steal somebody, and they may tell 2 or 3 or 5 friends and complain, but generally they were just left holding a bag.
Yeah, I think a lot of this still comes back. I'm going to keep talking and harping on training because I think that the new guys are not taught anything. They're kind of thrown out to the wolves, and they're
who's running the businesses that they work for? The guys that I just explained.
Yes.
Right,
Exactly.
exactly. Yeah, the
guys
guys
that
who
don't
never
like
really
the-
meant to be in business, they just ended up with a business by accident.
And not to interrupt you,
Beckett
which
in
I'm going to
and-
be doing
Yeah.
all night, but to absolutely hammer down on Kevin's point, I think the inference or the perception of these guys or employees, if it's not told to them on a constant basis, I think they think they're second-class citizens and not a great technician who is there to do a service and provide value.
But they don't feel like that because
Yes, but it
they're not
has to
sure
be-
what they're doing.
and that
They're
can be-
unsure because they
but-
were never trained.
Okay, but these are very simple
They're not
things.
treated that way either.
These
They're
things
not
are
treated that
really
way.
simple avenues to fix. It's just like walking in to a homeowner. You have to have pride in your appearance. You have to have pride in what you look like. You have to be proud of what you do and what you can
on
accomplish.
the individual level. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's on the individual
Everybody
level.
has. Look, your point is that they don't feel that they're worth something, but they have to take personal responsibility. And no matter what the job is, whether you're an HVAC technician or somebody stocking shelves at a local food store, when I was young, I was always told, it doesn't matter what job you do, just do it the best you can. You agreed to the salary. They didn't put a gun to your head. If it's 50 cents an hour or $50 an hour, do the job like it's the last job you're ever going to do, and they're going to remember you by it. So,
Now we go into work ethic, though.
well,
You know,
it's the
and
same thing.
We're
It's-
back into societal.
No,
but
no,
these
this is-
people. You're talking about employees that directly work for a specific outfit,
Right.
So yes, and I think exactly what you're saying right there falls into what Rich is saying is being trained properly and giving them that self pride.
Yeah, if
to
they
go
didn't
out
have
and
it
do the
along,
right
it's,
job.
it's the employer's responsibility, I
Well,
believe.
see, now that's a different thing. We're not training the employer. We're training the technician, and that's what you're talking about. And you're talking about, or education for the technician.
But it's
And
the
he's talking
employer
about
sending the
personal
employee.
commitment by the technician to feel a sense of pride.
Yeah.
But if you're being told by your employee, if you're being told by your employee, like, I don't give a shit if you're good or not. Like, just hurry the hell up, and I got things to make, and I got things to do. So, listen, we can beat the shit out of this thing.
Yeah,
We're going to go on for hours, I'm sure.
Yeah. But
Well, that would mean another podcast then, right? So I hope we enlightened
this
everybody a little
this
bit.
is just the only one. No,
This is it. We're done. We're going to send it home.
Time
T-shirts
goes
are
quick.
available on.
I'm getting the producers giving me got to
have to go
cut
to
short
the
there. So,
bathroom or something?
yeah, probably.
Does that mean we're going to Dairy Queen?
Are we done?
So-
Can we get a chocolate? I like snow cones.
Well, that's basically what that's our first show, and that's the kind of thing you're going to get from us every week. We'll try to focus on a specific topic and keep it
wander.
entertaining. We're going to wander all over the place.
Crazy.
So please help us. Send us some requests or
association.
topics
Yeah.
or anything you would like to talk about. Don't hesitate to bring it to our attention on any level. We'll talk about anything. Oh.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know if you caught that before. We're not always going to be family friendly. This is going to be explicit sometimes, so keep the little kids probably away from the whatever you're listening to. But anyway, as we wrap it up here, I hope you all enjoyed our first show. We'll be back with a new show about every week or so. We're going to try and do. And you can find us wherever you get your normal podcast, or you can catch us on our website at www.thehvacjerks.com.
Woo.
And if you have any questions or comments or things you'd like us to discuss, email us at theboys@thehvacjerks.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
You guys are jerks.
Follow the HVAC Jerks on Facebook and Instagram.